Okay, and welcome back from a long break. Today we're going to resume with our project. I remember last time we stopped at a place where we could create a new artist. So I can simply go to my project, which is located at localhost stroke UG news 24 underscore music, I think. Yeah, so that's where it was located, and that's the project. So the last time that we stopped, we were able to do to add a new artist in our database. Now, without wasting much time, today we are going to create the login system. Like, we will not allow someone to add an artist before they are logged in. I know I'm a bit faster, but I'm too fast. Okay, I'll not be that fast. Let us first do what? Present these artists. Okay, let us first present these artists, and then after presenting them, we will edit them. After editing them, then we'll add songs. After adding songs, then the logic of logging in and logging out, we'll do it later. I don't want to complicate things for now. So previously we could add the artists in our database. If you watch the previous video, we were able to add a new artist in our database. So, and explain everything, how to connect to the database and how to add anything to the database. Now in this video, we're going to begin by getting those artists from database and present them on a certain page. So here in the table of let me create a table of artists. So I'm just going to simply create a new file. So I'm just going to use this very file, maybe Ctrl+Shift+S to create a new file, a copy of this file. I'm just going to remove this add artist and put artists. Okay, artists. So all the artists, I'm going to put them here. Okay, so let me just put here artists. Okay, so I'm going to put here a list of the artists. So if I come here and instead of add artists, let me put here a link that will be taking me to artists, just to make it simple for us to navigate through. So let me put here a link. I'm going to call it all artists. Okay, so it's going to be under artists.php. So I'm going to put here all artists. So if I come and refresh and then I click, I put it in the wrong file. It's supposed to be in this add file. Okay, add file. So this is all artists. Let me also put here add file artists here. Okay, add artists link here. So I can put here add new artist. So if I come and refresh, smart, try to follow so that you should understand, please. Okay, try to be attentive. So if I click on all artists, I see add new artist. So this is adding new artist, this is all artists, adding new artist, all artists, adding like this. So I have this link that is linking the two forms. So in artists here, I want to present a list of of artists. Okay, so I'll come and remove these artists. Okay, and I'm going to create a file. I'm going to connect to the database and fetch the artists that we added. Remember, in the previous class we were able to add artists in this table of artists. So I'm going to fetch these artists and present them on our table. So how are we going to present the artists? I'm just going to put their ID. I'm going to just put their names. I think we should put their names. We'll put a photo and the name of the artist. Okay, photo and the name of the artist, photo and the name of the artist. So to do that, I'm going to just simply put here a table. I can use a table. Okay, or I can just use just a table like this table. Okay, so I'll call this artist. Remember, I've removed the other form, So if I come and refresh, you see we'll have this table. So I can put here yes, how should I do? I should just put artists. Okay, I can put maybe the ID, and then I put the name of this artist, and then I'll put maybe some action to do on this artist. Okay, so here I'm going to do like this. Please try to follow. So I have this. Okay, so let us make it a good looking. Let us give it some good looking by implementing Bootstrap classes. So I give it a class of what? Of table. So by just giving it class of table, it's going to be 100%, and then I give it a class of table bordered. Okay, so if I come and refresh, our table will be bordered. Okay, so after doing that, that is enough. Okay, without wasting much time, let us just maybe put here. Okay, maybe table over. Okay, so it means that when we move our mouse over a table, it will be looking like this. Okay, so we're going to put here a list of artists. Okay, so here we'll put the artist name and the whatever and whatever. So now at first we say that we're creating a project called crude project. Creating a project called what? Crude. This is the project that you're creating. It's called crude. Okay, well, let me put it here. So this first one, crude, means what? Create. The second one means read, and the third means what? Update, and the last one means delete. Okay, so we are done with this one. Okay, this one we are done with it. Okay, we have done with creating how to create the database. So now the next thing is what? To read. Now we have to read. Okay, so listen and watch carefully. The first thing of creating the database, you have seen it. Now it is now to read, to get the data from the database and present it in the front end. So we had so first of all, how we need a connection, just like what I told you. We need a what? We need a connection to the database. Okay, so I'm going to come and get the connection. I hope I have connection here. Yeah, the connection, my connection is here, right? But remember, okay, we put this connection on external file, so I don't need to suffer while getting the connection. All I need is just to include this file, and then I'll be able to get the connection. So I'm going to come here on top, just on top, before I display anything, and put my PHP, and then include this file, so that we should have the connection variable in this file. So here is the connection itself here. Okay, it's called my con. So if I echo this connection and die, I think I should print R. Okay, the connection and die. Let me echo here the pre tag. I should be able to get the connection. So if I refresh, you see the connection is there. Now if I comment this section of including this external file in our project, so what should we expect? Should expect an error. Why? Because we have not included the external file that is having the connection variable. And the reason why we put the connection in external file is because we don't want to repeat ourselves while dealing with our project. So I'm going to undo that, so that we should get the connection. So you see the connection is there. Now I'm going to write a code that will get what? That will get the data from from our database, and this data will be the list of all the artists that we created. But before we start doing that, I told you that we learn a lot of things as we are going on. Before we start doing that, we're going to first learn something called functions. Functions, they're very, very important when we are working with big projects. So listen carefully and you learn this new topic of functions. So what is the meaning of a function? A function is a group of code, or a group of code is a group of code, or a group of a set of lines of code. We call it a piece of program that we can use to perform a particular task. If you have somewhere to note down, write the word functions. So after this class, go and search about functions. Very, very important. Have you heard? Note down functions. After this class, go and search about function. Are you there? Okay. So yeah. So note down, not somewhere. After this class, go and search about the functions and read about them. So functions, they're very, very important because they help us to not repeat ourselves. Assume that you have a function. Assume that you have a task where you need to be verifying the user, or you want to be converting time from seconds to normal time, or to dates, or to minutes and hours. Assume that you want to do that. So if you don't write a function, you may find that you'll write around 10 lines that will do that particular task. So if you don't write a function, you will be repeating those 10 lines every place where you want to do that task. But by the power of function, you write that task only one time, and then you'll be able to reuse that piece of task. For example, I'm going to reuse that piece of code again and again and again and again. So in PHP, to create a function, I'm going to create here. How should I say? Okay, I'm going to create a file where I'm going to put these functions, so that you should be able to reuse these functions. Okay. So let me create a new file, just going to be PHP file, and I'm going to call it my functions. Okay. Okay, so it is there, my functions. So if I come and put stroke my functions here, I should be able to access this file. So when you're creating a function, for example, I'm going to create a function that will be telling us our name. So I'm going to begin by creating a function. So to create a function is just like the way you can buy any material at your home, or anything at home, and then you'll be reusing that thing. It's just like the way you can buy, let us say you buy a broom, and then you put that broom at home. So instead of you picking the litters, you'll be using the broom. But if you don't use the broom, it will not be used until you start using it. So let me create a new functions. For example, I'm going to create a function that will be telling us our name. So in PHP, to create a function, you just simply say function. I think I taught functions, didn't I? Did I teach functions? Because I'm like teaching from scratch. Did I teach functions? Try to remind me.
There were two. We taught only two.
Two.
There were two. The ones you taught.
So what is my name? So what are the two functions do you mean? So if I say what is my name, I'm going to echo here your name is Mohindo. So if I do like this and come and refresh, you see, you first write that function, and then you give this function a name, and then you open these normal brackets and then the curly brackets. Then between those curly brackets, you put there the logic, the lines that you want to be repeated. There can be as many as you want. So if I come and refresh, can you see the name is not appearing, yet I am echoing? Can you see? So this will not appear until we call it. it will not appear until we call this function. So to call this function, you just simply do like this, put a bracket, you write the function name and put the bracket and the semicolon, then you'll be able to call this function. So can you see, your name is Muhindo. Okay, so I write this line only one time, but if I duplicate, you see, 50 times. Okay, can you see, your name is Muhindo, 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 but I wrote it only one time. So if I put here full stop, it means that all these things are going to be updated. But if I did not use this logic, what does it mean? I could go and editing every part, every part, every part, every part. So that is the power of what? Of functions. So these functions, we have what we call arguments. So argument is when we can pass something to this function. Note that down also. Function arguments. You should go and search about it. So function arguments, these are things that we can pass to a function. Note that down, please. We call it parameters or function argument. Let me just make here some summary. Okay. Functions, introduction. Okay, so here the topic that we are covering right now. Introduction to functions in PHP. Okay. Then we will think argumented functions, arguments, functions, arguments stroke what? Parameters. Okay, that's another thing that you should go and search about in functions. Parameters. So a parameter is something that will give this function. For example, if we say like name is equal to Halima Biro. Okay, now this name is external name. Okay, hey, I'm confusing you. So we have what we call globals and what? And local variable. So a global variable is a variable that is outside. Okay, that is outside a function. You cannot access it inside a function. Is either I cannot access it inside a function. For example, I cannot come here and put, maybe let me put, you know, if I put this curly bracket, this function, this variable will be replaced here. If you didn't know, you should know. Okay, so if I come and refresh, it's going to cause an error. Okay, it's going to cause an error. Why? Because this name is not inside the what? Inside the function. But if I put it inside the function, let us say that I put it inside here. You see, everything is okay. But if I put it outside the function, I cannot access it. So that is another topic to go and search about. Global variables and local variable. So what is a global variable? Is a variable that is defined outside the what? Outside the function. I repeat, a global variable is a variable that is defined outside a function. It cannot be accessed in a function directly. It will see, I've defined a name, but I cannot use the name here. So it is a global variable. It cannot be used inside a function until I put it there inside a function. So when I put it inside a function, this name will be accessed within this function only. That's what we call a local variable. It cannot be accessed outside this function. For example, I cannot say like this, echo name. See, I cannot use it. That is not allowed. Can you see? Yet it is already here. So you cannot use a function. You cannot use a local variable outside the what? Outside the function. But if you want to use the global variable, for example, if you want to use the global variable inside the function, you write the word global like this, global, and then put the name of the global variable. By doing like this, then this one will come and look for this global variable outside, and then we'll be able to do what? To search it. I mean to implement it. So if I refresh, you see Bira Halima. And how was I able to access it? By first declaring it here, and then it will take the copy of this global variable here, and then we'll be able to do what? To echo it, or to use it within your function. So that is another important thing that you should note: global and local variable. Global variable, you cannot access them directly within the global variable are defined outside the function. Secondly, a global variable, you cannot access it directly in the function. If you want to access global variable within a function, you must first declare it, like the way I've shown you here, like saying global first, and then you give the name of what? Of this global variable, and then you'll be able to get there. You'll be able to use that global variable within your what? Within your function. So that's how you can use the global variable. So local variable, you cannot use it outside the function, or outside, or in another function. You cannot use it. Okay, you will only use it within a particular function. For example, if I say name is equal to maybe I can say Sumaya. Okay, so if I put like this, it means that it will not use this name, but it will only use the name that is locally defined. So a local variable is what we define within a what? Within a function. Okay, so that is what you should know. So I've looked at introduction function, global variables, local variables, and argumented what? Argumented parameters. Now we look at parameters. So a parameter is a variable that we pass to the function. Okay, for example, you can say, let me wrap this. Okay, you see I've wrapped everything, but when you're in the video you'll be able to get them. Okay, so there's an error, I've not defined any name. So a parameter is what you can give to a function. You can pass something to a function. For example, this function can say I'm expecting someone who will call me will give me a what? Will give me a name. So that I should tell them their name. Okay, because if you don't tell the function the name, you should not be able to do what? To get to know your name. So if I come and refresh right now, it will cause an error. Why? Because this function, it says that, hey, if you want to call me, you must tell me your what? Your name. Then I'll be able to tell you your name. Okay, so it means that if I call this function, I have to pass to it something. There are different ways. Okay, I can first define my name is equal to Kule Swale. Okay, that is my name. So if I want to pass this name to this function, I can just pass it here like this. So when I'm calling this function, a copy of this name will be pasted in this variable, and then this variable will be used here. So doing this is what we call arguments, okay, or parameters. You're passing parameter to this function, or you're saying we are passing argument to this function. So if I refresh, your name is Kule Swale. I hope you can see that. Now assume that I have maybe an initial. So a function can get more than one what? More than one argument. Assume we have also initials. Okay, so initials, maybe it is Mr. Okay, Mr. so and so. So I'm going to say this function should receive more than one argument, an initial and a what? And a name. So to receive more than one argument, we put comma. We put comma. So and it is not necessary that this must look the same. For example, I can use here init. Okay, so if I use init here, it means that it is what I'll be able to access in this method. So let me also put it here. So it will be your name is this and this. So let us refresh. You see, it is causing an error. I hope you're following. So it is causing an error. Why is it causing an error? Because this function is expecting two variables or two arguments. The first one is initial, the second one is the name. But you see, when you're passing it, you're passing to it only one. So let me pass to it initials also, and to separate we use what? We use comma. So if I refresh, you see your name is Mr. Kuleswali. Okay, so I can as well define while I'm passing it. For example, let me comment. I can as well do like this. Maybe Mrs. See, and then I pass Mohindo Barak. Okay, so if I come here and I save, you see, I define the strings directly as I call this function. That is also allowed. There's no crime. You see, my name is Mrs. Mohindo Barak. Now there's another thing we can still override. The overriding means like you want to put the default values. Okay, putting the default values, default parameters. I hope you're noting this down. Default parameters. Okay, so in case I don't want to make it necessary to provide a name, you see here it's a problem when I don't provide a name. When I don't provide a name, it does what? It crashes. So if I want to put like default, I can just simply put equal sign and I put the brackets, I mean the default value like this one. Okay, so it means that in case we don't send let me put this one here. In case we don't send the name, you see, in case we don't send the name, this name will use the default. See, it will use the default variable that I will use the default variable to replace it. Assume that you're receiving the name and the initials. For example, I can say okay, assume that you're receiving the initial, and then I'm going to pass nothing to the name. So let me put no name here. No name. So what is going to happen is that the initial will take this first name, and then this one will have no name. So let me pass here Mr. So it's going to be Mr. no name, if you can see. So you see Mr. no name. Why? Because here we do not pass the name. So if you don't pass the second name, you can as well initialize it to nothing. So let me pass the name now. For example, I can say Mr. John Doe. Okay, so it means that this one will overwrite this one. Otherwise, if we don't pass, then this one will be the placeholder. So if I refresh, now we shall have Mr. John Doe. But as long as we don't pass anything in the second parameter or in the default parameter, then it will take the default value. Now if you don't provide the default value, it will just do what? It will just crash. Okay, did you understand? Are you understanding? Are you understanding? Okay, so now here in the table, now that is a brief introduction of functions. You can go and learn more about functions. So on W3 Schools. Okay, so now let us create an SQL that is going to get for us all the artists from the database. So to get the artists from the database, you can just simply come and follow this W3 Schools, W3 Schools PHP select. I can say W3 Schools fetch PHP fetch data. Okay, so you can see here PHP select, and then you can follow along here. You see, we're having all the procedures listed here. So write the SQL. After writing the SQL, we will run it, and after running it, we'll fetch one row by one row. I already have the connection, so we'll just simply say so we are going to fetch the users, right? So it is going to be SQL is equal to select all. Let me select everything from what? From artists. Okay, so here it will get for us all the artists. Then you have to run this SQL. Okay, so my understanding, Smile.
Yeah,
You're getting it?
Yes.
So begin by writing the S.
Yeah, I'm getting.
Okay, you are now home.
Not yet.
So you first write the SQL. This SQL is going to communicate with the database, and then we use the connection. Remember, have connection variable, which is this one, my con. Okay, so I use this connection variable to get the data from the database, and I run the SQL like this. So this SQL will return something called a resource if it is successful. Okay, we call it a result or a resource, no problem. So it will return something called result. These results will not have the data that we're expecting. It will have just a brief snippet of the possible data that is going to be returned. So let me refresh. In fact, I'll have to go to what? To artists. Okay, so I refresh. Did I dump anything? Select all from artists. Okay, so my connection fetch ASOC. Okay, I mean result, and then I dump this error. Okay, is it everything okay? Let me first echo the SQL and see if the SQL is okay. Refresh. Okay, select all from artist. Let me first run this SQL direct from what? From the PHP admin by simply coming here. Yeah, oh, it is artist, not artists. Okay, it is select all from artist. So if I come and refresh, and I'm going to do what? To dump the results here. Okay, so you see, it is just bringing us a snippet or a brief summary of what is going to be returned. It does not return us the details. Please listen carefully. Here it does not return to us the details. It just returns to us as a brief information of what is about going to be returned. It is telling you there are fields, 9 fields that are going to be returned, and 9 rows, and 4 rows. Okay, so now at this moment we are going to loop as we fetch single or one by one from what? From the database. So we use this fetch ASOC, fetch ASOC to get the rows from what? From database. Okay, so you can say once you have this resource, you can now loop or result. We call it a result or resource, no problem. So I can now create a what? A while loop. See, this while loop will loop forever. You know, while loop, it will loop until the last time. So it's going to create a while loop until the last, there's nothing which is returned. So creating this while loop, it's going to loop until there is nothing what? There's nothing returned. So I'm going to use fetch ASOC. This fetch ASOC is a PHP, is a MySQLi function that will fetch for us associative array from the database. In fact, before I loop, let me first do just a single step by step. I've shown you how we have been returned the resource. They do not return to us the data, but only they return for us some things that we are not even interested in. They are important to know just the number of results that are going to be returned. Okay, so it is telling you, hey, I'm going to return for you this number of results. So you can, based on these ones, even before you fetch the data, to make decision. So here I'm now going to do what? To get the data. So to get the data, we use a function called what? Fetch ASOC, and we attach this fetch ASOC on the result that was returned from my SQLi query. Okay. You see this one, you use the connection to query, and then here I'm using the result to get the what? The data. So I can say maybe data is equal to whatever is going to be returned. Let us dump this data and we see. Okay. So I hope you consider this is step number 1, step number 2, step number 3 using the data. So you can see one artist has been returned with the details. Okay, but it is only one artist, but remember we're having 4. Can you see that? We're having what? We're having 4. So the question is, how do you get the next artist? So to get the next artist, I have to duplicate this data again to get the next artist. Okay, so if I save, I come and refresh again, you see we now have 2 artists, the next one. To get another one, I have to do what? Duplicate again. You see, it is complicated. It is fetching one by one. Okay, it is fetching one by one. You can see. So if they are over, let me for example do like this. If they are over, you see I've called more than the number of artists that we are having on what? In the database. So if I refresh, what will happen? You see, when they get over, it starts returning false or null. Okay, it returns nothing. So it means that even if we call again and again while there is no more record that to be returned, it returns what? It returns nothing. So we are going now to what? We are now going to, instead of manually fetching one by one, we came up, we say, hey, we should be using the while loop, and this while loop, it will stop only when there is nothing coming. That's when the while loop stops. So I'm going to use while loop to fetch each row by row. So I'll copy this and put it here in the while loop. That's how I loop. So I can say maybe this is data. So whatever is returned, it will be stored in what? In data. So I'm going just to do what? To echo this data like this. Okay. So if I come and refresh, oh, I cannot echo. I can print R because what? It's an object. It's an array. So I print R. You'll see all the artists have been printed. Okay, but within a what? Within a loop. Okay, so it means that we have successfully fetched the data from what? From database. Okay, now instead of, we know that we're going to use this, we're going to use this data so much. I mean, this function of this logic of getting the users from the data, for getting the artists from the database, we are going to use it so much. So it will be wise for us to create a function that will be getting the artist, all of them, and it returns them. Oh, one more thing that I did not talk about here is returning. Okay, returning. Also go and search about it. So returning is to return, is to give back. Okay, what you asked. Like I can ask a function to calculate for me the 2 numbers, and I tell it don't print those numbers but bring them to me back. In fact, we are not recommended to be printing using functions. The function should just perform the logic and return something. Okay, for example, I can create a function that is going to be adding 2 numbers. Okay, so I can just simply say function my add. It will be taking 2 numbers, a and what? A and b. Okay, so instead of me echoing this function, I can simply return those functions. Okay, I want to return this, the sum of these two, so I'll return that plus that. Okay, so this function will not work until you do what? Until we call it. Okay, so let me call it. I pass maybe 11 and 15, 25. So I've called this function. Okay, but remember I did not print, and they are not allowed, we are not recommended to be printing using functions. So let me open a new tab and pass this one. Got what? Functions. Oh, my functions.php. Can you see anything? No. But is the function being called? Yes. Okay, so it is not doing anything, but it is returning. So if I want to get this, whatever it is returned, I can just put here my $sign, maybe I say tot is equal to. So this function will perform the logic, it will perform the logic, and then it will return. So whatever will be returned, it will be stored in this tot, and this is how we receive it. So if I echo now the tot, see, I'll be able to get the what? The answer, or the sum, which is 32. You can see here. So that is the returning. So returning is very important in a way that we can use this function for anything, whether in the middle of a program or at the end of the program, where we're supposed to print, where we're not supposed to print. This return function will do what? Will help to be used, because it does not, it does not always implement, we don't always implement the real printing in these functions. So don't print within the return function, or don't print within the function. Just use the function, do whatever you do, and then after doing that logic, you return the what? The solution. So that's why I'm telling you that I'm going to create a functions. I'm going to create a function, and its task will be to get the data, or to get the artists from the database, and then it gives us all these artists by just simply calling that function. So to create that function, I'll simply create, you see here we're creating an array, and we're dumping each variable down here. You see, we're dumping each variable here. So instead of dumping them, I'm going to store them in a what? In an array. Okay, I'm going to store them in an array, and then I'll return these functions. So to store something in an array, we have a function called array push. Okay, so I can say maybe here I create a what? A variable. I'm going to call it what? Artists. Artists is equal to empty. So before I do anything, I first set the artists as an empty what? As an empty array. So if I want to add the users, what will I do? I'll have to use array push. So array push, it will take the array and the variable to push in that array. Remember, our variables that are coming from the database are in this data. Okay, so I can maybe call it artist. So this one is array of artist, and then we are getting a single artist at a particular row. So I put there, I push. So I mean that this artist is going to be pushed in this array of artists. Okay, so if I come and dump here down, you will see that I'm now not equaling within the loop, but I just pushed all of them inside one array. You see, I pushed all the artists inside one array, and I was able to access all the artists in a what? In a single array by just using the printer. Hope you can see that. So why do I do that? Because I want to create a function that will not disturb me while I'm getting what? While I'm getting these values. So let us go to the let me create this function. So to create a function, I will simply do what? I'll simply just write here. Okay, I'm going to create a function that will be getting the artist from what? From the database. So the function will be starting from the what? From the SQL itself. Why? Because it is the part of what? Of the logic that gets the users from what? From the function. So I mean from the database. So I'm going to just say here function get what? Get artists. Remember, a function cannot have space. And then I do what? I return. Okay, let me just echo here, or let me die here and say done. So what are you expecting? First of all, it's going to cause an error. Which error? You know, of what? Of the connection. Undefined variable artists what? Undefined variable artists. Which line is that? Line 17. Oh yeah, we are trying to print the artist. Okay, so if we refresh here, the first problem is the what? Is the my PHP is not displaying error. I don't know why. There's something to fix. We'll fix it, but not now. It's not displaying errors. I'll fix that problem later, but not now. So here that the problem is I wanted to display these errors, but okay, I'll do it later. Here the reason why I cannot get this done thing is because there's an error, and the error, you know, is we cannot access this global variable of connection unless we first say con, or you can as well pass it here. You pass it here and then you'll be able to get it. So I can use this global. I know this function, I mean this function is under a place where we have included this connection. So if I put global con, we will be able to do what? To access the connection, which is is a global variable. So if I come and refresh, so my con, so let me go here and see if everything is okay. I now have to call this function. So to call, yeah, it will not work until we call it. Okay, so let me call the function. Can you see? Done. So it is reaching here. Let me try to remove this, and we see. You see, undefined variable, my con. You see the problem? My con is not undefined, yet we are having it in a global. So if you want to access it, the global variable, you just simply put the global, and then you'll be able to do what? To access that particular function. Okay, so after having my con, what else? I'm going to do what? To remember, I already have all the artists in this artist, so I'm going to return this artist. So I'm just going to say return artists. So what does it mean? It means that nothing will be displayed for now. You see, so it means that when we call this function, this function is doing the whole logic and then return to us the artist. So if I want to get the artist, I can just simply put here maybe arts is equal to, then it means that the artist will be stored in this artist artist array. Okay, so let me dump this artist, and then if I refresh here, can you see? Perfect, everything is okay. So by doing like this, we'll have written this logic only one time, and then we can reuse it so many times. Okay, we can reuse it so many times. But if we put it here in this file, we will not be able to reuse it in another external file. So what should we do? We should create a function. We should create another file of functions, and in this file of functions, I will be putting all my functions that I'll be using in different projects. Okay, so I'm going to create this file. It is here. I've created it, and I'm going just to do what? To comment these things, and then you can even put in the file of connection. It's up to you. So I'm going to put here all my functions that I will want to reuse. Very important thing that you must understand. If you don't understand this part, please repeat the video. Kindly repeat like 3 times or 4 times or 5 times until you understand what I'm talking about right now. It's very, very, very important. So you see, I create this file of what? Of my functions, because I want to reuse these functions. You don't put here HTML. This is just plain PHP code. It's going to be plain PHP code. It will be doing the logic and return the solution. Do the logic and return the solution. So what do? I have this function here that will be getting the users from database and then return for me the artists from database, and then return for me those artists. Okay, so what should I need to do here now is now to include it, because it is now an external file. And why do I make it an external file? Because I want to reuse these functions in different files or in multiple times. That's why I'm making it external. So let me just add this one, my functions here. Okay, so let me remove this one because it is already defined in this my function, so I don't need it. So if I come and refresh, everything is perfect. Okay, so this one, my functions, it will add these parts, and then we'll be able to do what? To reuse them. Hope you're understanding. If you don't understand, just feel free to ask, and you should repeat this video in case you don't understand while you're practicing. Very important, this section. So it means that here I've got the functions, right? I've got all the artists by just calling get artists, and this get artists is inside this function, and then it will get for me the artists and then return for me the artists themselves. So let me delete this dump and then go ahead. So if I refresh, everything is okay. Let me remove the pre-tag, and you will see everything is okay. Now my task is I want to loop and put those artists that we got from the database here. Okay, so I'll come and loop through this table row. You see, this is a table row that is repeating itself, that you're supposed to put the data. Okay, so what will I do? I'm going to write PHP and then pause it and again resume it. Okay, so we should first know that it is PHP that controls what? That controls HTML. So if PHP does not allow HTML to be printed, of course not be printed, if the condition of PHP doesn't allow, because it's PHP that processes and then HTML presents. Okay, so I'm going to create a loop that is going to loop through these rows of this table. So to do that, I'll just simply write PHP. So I open PHP and then I put for each loop. Do you still remember for each loop? For each loop, it will loop as it is storing the values inside the third variable. So I'm going to loop through these arts, or the arts here. So I'll put here the arts. Okay, so you see here I'll put the code, but I don't want to loop through just PHP code. I want to loop through HTML code. So it means that this code is between these curly brackets. It is the one that will be repeated, because what is a loop. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this PHP and then come and resume it after the lines that I want to be looped. Okay, so how do you stop PHP? How do you stop PHP? By putting a question mark and less than sign. Then there's no more PHP. But remember, this bracket is not what? Is not closed. This bracket is not closed. I want to close it after displaying these rows. Okay, so I can just delete it, or I can cut it, and then I come after these rows I can even put this guy one step ahead. I come after rows. Remember, there's a PHP bracket that is not closed, so let me close it after these rows. So PHP, that's how we open PHP, and then I close this curly bracket. So it means that the rules of PHP are going to control this HTML. So this loop is going to control the what? It's going to control this HTML. You see, I write this HTML only one time, but let's see. Can you see? It is 4 times. It is 4 times. So what did that is this loop, and we are looping through the artists. So if I put here maybe art, okay, art. So if I come and refresh, it's just the same, okay. But remember, each time we loop, an artist is being received here inside the this art, okay, this art, or this variable called art. So among the things or the properties of an artist is the artist ID. So here I'm going to remove this and replace it with PHP artist ID. Okay, so I'll just come and say artist ID and paste it there, and then if I come and refresh, you'll see the IDs of the artist have been displayed. So that's how we get the data from what? From database. Okay, so let me put their names. Okay, artist name. So I'll just duplicate this one and put artist name. Okay, if I refresh, you see artist name and then the actions. Okay, so the actions will be update, edit, and delete. Okay, so the actions will be here. Okay, so let us begin with update. So to update an artist, I'm going to send them back to this add new form, add artist form, this one. Okay, so it's going to be a link. Okay, so we're going to have just this link, artist add form, and maybe I can give it a class of text. Can give it a what? A class of text primary. Of course, automatically won't be text primary. I can put maybe text dark. Okay, so let me change this one to update. So if I come and refresh here, you'll see we have an action of update. Okay, let me create another. This text dark is just making it ugly. Let me create another one. Delete the delete one. Okay, so let me put update, and then I'll put another one of delete. Refresh. Danger. See, I can make this one 8. Okay, for now let's be 8. So we have that one. Okay, we have artists, and then you have update and delete, update and delete. So in the next class we'll start with updating, whereby we'll be able to go to the artist page and they load him in this in the artist form here, and then we do what? We update the information. That is what we'll do in the next class, and then we'll also work on the what? On the deleting logic. I still have energy. We do it now. Are you there though? So first of all, okay, let me just leave you and you rest. So in the next class, we'll start from there. We'll work on the update and the delete part of what? Of this project. I hope you're there.